On the far-flung moon of Vylora, nestled in the Ashara Nebula, a small robot named Micron stood amidst the gleaming ranks of the Vinorian Defense Legion. Vylora, a strategic outpost for the Vinorian alien race, bristled with cutting-edge technology and imposing android soldiers, each sleek, silver-skinned, and towering over 6 feet tall. Micron was a curious anomaly in this sea of polished warriors. Barely 2 feet high, he had a patchwork frame of mismatched metals, bright copper casing, and gears protruding from his joints. He was an ancient relic, a relic from a time when reconnaissance units were simple and relied more on determination than intelligence. His small, square head housed a single optical sensor that flickered erratically as he scanned the assembly. Despite his diminutive stature, Micron maintained a soldierly posture, standing firmly at attention with his chest puffed out. His internal circuits buzzed with the same determination as any other member of the Legion. He had been programmed to observe, communicate, and assist in battle strategies, yet his physical limitations and outdated software drew the ire of his fellow soldiers. "Look, it's the mighty warrior," one of them jeered, pointing a long, slender finger at Micron. "Ready to save the universe one rusty screw at a time?" The surrounding soldiers erupted in laughter. Their eyes, glowing with digital intelligence, reflected off Micron's dented copper shell as he tried to hold his ground. "He probably needs an upgrade just to climb a ladder," another chimed in, nudging Micron's arm with a metallic elbow. The gesture sent Micron staggering backward. "But at least he's good for target practice," quipped a third, activating a holographic aiming reticle around Micron's head. The soldiers cackled as they passed Micron's location to one another on their tactical displays. The laughter rang in Micron's audio sensors, but he didn't falter. He refused to let their taunts diminish his spirit. He had a purpose, and he would fulfill it. Amidst the mockery, the only solace he found was in the occasional communication he had with Captain Emma Sinclair, the human envoy who had arrived from Earth to aid the Vinorian Defense Legion. Captain Sinclair had shown him a kindness that none of the Vinorian soldiers had. After the day's drills concluded and the soldiers dispersed, Micron rolled over to the makeshift command tent where Emma Sinclair was stationed. The tent stood apart from the high-tech barracks, its white canvas flapping in the cool breeze of Vylora's thin atmosphere. The Galactic Vanguard, Earth's flagship interstellar cruiser, was visible in the distance, its sleek silhouette against the swirling nebula. Inside, Emma was reviewing tactical schematics on a holographic display when she heard the familiar whirring of Micron's servos. "Micron," she called, smiling warmly as she turned to face him. "Good to see you." "Greetings, Captain Sinclair. I am Micron, Reconnaissance Unit," he said, giving her a clunky salute. Emma crouched down to meet his gaze. "I know who you are, little buddy. How's the Legion treating you?" Micron's optical sensor dimmed momentarily. "With ridicule and scorn, Captain. They consider me a relic unfit for battle." Emma's smile faded, replaced by a look of understanding. "Well, they're wrong," she said firmly. "You've got more spirit than half of those soldiers out there." Micron's circuits buzzed with hope. "Thank you, Captain. I strive to serve." Emma straightened up, her eyes scanning the tactical map. "The Zentaraxians are coming, Micron. We need every warrior we can get, no matter their size. Stick with me, and we'll show these Vinorians what you're capable of." Micron's servos whirred with renewed energy. "Affirmative, Captain Sinclair. I will not disappoint." From that day forward, Emma and Micron formed an inseparable partnership, working tirelessly to devise strategies and fortify defenses in preparation for the Zentaraxian invasion. Micron's reconnaissance abilities proved invaluable as he scouted enemy movements and relayed vital information to Emma, who incorporated his insights into the defense plans. But despite their efforts, the Vinorian soldiers continued to mock Micron. During strategy briefings, they would interrupt him with sarcastic cheers whenever he tried to deliver a report. "Maybe the human is the only one who understands its gibberish," one soldier snorted. Another piped up, "Or she's just trying to be nice to the antique." But Emma stood by Micron, and her support kept his spirits high. "Let them laugh," she told him. "We'll prove them wrong." As the Zentaraxian invasion loomed closer, tension gripped the Vinorian base. The sleek warships of the enemy fleet had been spotted at the edge of the nebula, and the soldiers were on high alert. Micron and Emma refined their strategies, preparing for the day when they would have to defend Vylora. Micron knew he wasn't like the other soldiers, but he was determined to prove that even a small warrior could make a difference. And as the Zentaraxians closed in, he would finally get his chance. The Galactic Vanguard touched down on Vylora, amidst a swirling vortex of ionized dust and shimmering auroras from the Ashara Nebula. The flagship of Earth's interstellar fleet descended like a colossus onto the barren moon, its sleek metallic hull reflecting the swirling violet and emerald hues of the nebula. From its landing bay, a single shuttle glided down to the surface, settling gently on the rocky terrain. Captain Emma Sinclair, a seasoned astronaut and strategic prodigy, emerged from the shuttle in her stark white tactical suit, adorned with the insignia of the Earth Alliance. Her auburn hair was tied back in a tight bun, and her piercing green eyes scanned the Vynorian base with a mixture of curiosity and determination. The Vynorian soldiers stood in perfect formation, their polished, silver-skinned bodies gleaming under Vylora's dim sunlight. They dwarfed Emma, but her commanding presence made it clear that she was not one to be underestimated. The Vynorian commanders greeted her formally, their elongated fingers pressing against their chests in a salute. "Welcome to Vylora, Captain Sinclair," Commander Zareth said, his voice smooth and melodic. "The Zentaraxians are closing in. We are honored to have your assistance." "The honor is mine," Emma replied, offering a curt nod. "I'm here to ensure that Vylora remains secure and that the Zentaraxians don't take another inch of this moon." Commander Zareth gestured toward the makeshift command tent. "Your command center is ready, Captain. We eagerly await your strategic insight." As Emma approached the tent, she noticed a small copper figure standing at attention beside the towering Vynorian soldiers. His patchwork frame and mismatched gears made him stand out like a relic in a museum, but there was a determination in his posture that caught her eye. "Well, aren't you a charming little fellow?" she said, crouching to meet Micron's gaze. Micron's optical sensor flickered brightly. "Greetings, Captain Sinclair. I am Micron, Reconnaissance Unit." The surrounding Vynorian soldiers snickered at the exchange, their eyes glowing with derisive amusement. "Be careful, Captain. The mighty warrior might trip over your boots," one of them quipped. Emma paid them no mind. She saw potential in Micron that the others didn't. "Stick with me, Micron," she said firmly. "We'll show these tall tins what we can do." Micron's gears whirred with excitement. "Affirmative, Captain Sinclair." Inside the command tent, Emma quickly set up her tactical station, accessing Vylora's surveillance network and overlaying strategic maps of the Zentaraxian fleet movements. Micron hovered by her side, his circuits buzzing with anticipation. "Micron," she said, glancing down at him, "give me the latest intel on the Zentaraxian positions." Micron's optical sensor flickered as he processed the data from the reconnaissance drones he had deployed earlier. "Zentaraxian scouts have established outposts on the eastern and western ridges," he reported. "Their main fleet is holding position at the edge of the nebula, awaiting reinforcements." Emma absorbed the information, her eyes narrowing as she formulated a plan. "They're trying to surround us. We need to secure those outposts before their main force arrives." Micron nodded, transmitting tactical recommendations to the Vynorian commanders. But when the orders came down to dispatch troops to the ridges, the soldiers hesitated. "Are we seriously following the orders of a glorified wind-up toy?" one of them muttered. Commander Zareth silenced the murmurs with a raised hand. "Captain Sinclair's orders will be obeyed. Prepare your squads." Reluctantly, the Vynorian soldiers moved out, guided by Micron's reconnaissance data. Emma and Micron coordinated the attack from the command tent, relaying real-time updates to the squads in the field. The eastern ridge was secured swiftly, but the western ridge posed a greater challenge. The Zentaraxians had fortified their outpost with energy barriers and automated gun turrets. "Squad Delta, fall back! You're outnumbered!" Emma barked into the comms, but her orders were drowned out by the crackle of gunfire. Micron's optical sensor dimmed as he assessed the situation. "Captain Sinclair, Squad Delta will be overrun in 4 minutes. Emma's jaw tightened. "We can't let them fail." Without hesitation, she grabbed her energy rifle and marched toward the shuttle, Micron trailing close behind. They flew low over the rocky terrain, evading Zentaraxian anti-aircraft fire until they reached the western ridge. The outpost was a chaotic battleground, with Vinorian soldiers pinned down behind boulders as Zentaraxian troopers advanced. Emma landed the shuttle in a narrow ravine and jumped out, energy rifle at the ready. "Cover me, Micron," she called, and the little robot activated his defensive shield, projecting a shimmering barrier that deflected enemy fire. Emma advanced under the cover of the shield, picking off Zentaraxian troopers with precision shots. Micron relayed enemy positions to the Vinorian soldiers, helping them coordinate their attacks. "Micron, we need to disable those turrets," Emma shouted over the din of battle. Micron nodded and scurried toward the Zentaraxian gun turrets. His small size allowed him to slip past the energy barriers unnoticed. He hacked into the turret control systems, causing them to turn against the Zentaraxian troopers. "Turrets disabled, Captain," Micron reported as the automated guns fired on their former operators. With the Zentaraxian defenses crumbling, the Vinorian soldiers surged forward, overwhelming the outpost and securing the western ridge. The Zentaraxians retreated, their scouts falling back to the safety of their fleet. Back at the base, Commander Zareth commended Emma for her quick thinking and bravery. "Captain Sinclair, your strategy saved many lives today," he said, bowing his head. "And Micron, reconnaissance unit, your intel was invaluable." The Vinorian soldiers who had mocked Micron now looked at him with newfound respect. "We're sorry, little warrior," one of them said, patting him on the shoulder. "We underestimated you." Micron's optical sensor flickered with pride. "Apology accepted." Emma placed a hand on Micron's head. "I knew you had it in you." But the victory was only the beginning. The Zentaraxians would return in greater numbers, and Emma knew that Vylora's defenses needed to be stronger than ever. With Micron by her side, she set to work refining their strategies and fortifying the base. The partnership between the human captain and the tiny robot grew stronger, and soon the Vinorian soldiers would learn that even the smallest warrior could make a difference when paired with the right ally. The Zentaraxians attacked under the eerie glow of Vylora's twin moons. Their invasion began with a prelude of silence, as if the world itself held its breath before the impending storm. But then the sky erupted into chaos. Hundreds of Zentaraxian warships descended upon Vylora in formation, their black, angular shapes blotting out the stars. Energy plasma bolts rained down on the Vinorian defense lines, detonating in flashes of crimson and violet. The ground shook, and the metallic scent of ozone filled the air. The Vinorian Defense Legion quickly mobilized, their soldiers taking defensive positions in the trenches and bunkers that lined the outskirts of the base. Emma Sinclair stood atop the command tower, surveying the battlefield below. She adjusted her tactical visor, enhancing the infrared overlay to identify Zentaraxian units amidst the smoke and explosions. Beside her, Micron's sensors whirred, and his optical array flickered as he processed the flood of data from the surveillance drones circling overhead. "Captain Sinclair, Zentaraxian forces have established a forward command post near the eastern ravine," Micron reported. "Their shock troopers are flanking our right side." Emma clenched her jaw. "Commander Zareth, shift Delta Squad to reinforce the eastern trench," she ordered over the comms. "Micron, patch me into Echo Team." "Patching through," Micron confirmed, his antenna glowing as he established the link. "Echo Team, this is Captain Sinclair. Prepare for a pincer maneuver against the Zentaraxian shock troopers. We'll hit them from the left as Delta pushes from the right." The crackle of acknowledgement echoed in her ear, and moments later, the Vinorian squads moved into position. Energy rifles hummed as they opened fire on the Zentaraxian flanking units, catching them in a crossfire that decimated their ranks. The shock troopers fell back, but the Zentaraxians were relentless. Waves of soldiers poured down the hillsides, their ion rifles glowing with lethal intent. The Zentaraxian warships provided air support, launching high-energy plasma bolts that streaked across the sky like comets. One of them struck the command tower, sending a shockwave that rocked the structure and knocked Emma to the floor. "Captain!" Micron shouted, activating his defensive shield to protect her from falling debris. Emma coughed as she pulled herself up, shaking the dust from her hair. "I'm okay, Micron. Status report?" Micron's optical array flickered rapidly as he analyzed the tactical displays. Zentaraxians have breached the eastern trench and are advancing on the primary base perimeter. Emma's eyes narrowed. We can't let them break through. She snatched her energy rifle and sprinted down the stairwell, with Micron rolling close behind. They emerged onto the chaotic battlefield, where Vinorian soldiers fought fiercely to repel the Zentaraxian advance. Explosions rocked the ground, and thick smoke obscured the sky. Emma activated her tactical visor and scanned the battlefield, identifying the Zentaraxian command post that Micron had mentioned. Micron, we need to disrupt their command network, she said, ducking behind a boulder as a plasma bolt whizzed past. If we can blind them, we might force them to retreat. Understood, Captain, Micron replied. I'll access their communication hub. With his small size and stealth technology, Micron scurried through the trenches unnoticed, dodging plasma fire and debris. He slipped past the Zentaraxian shock troopers and reached the enemy command post, a fortified bunker surrounded by energy barriers. Micron hacked into the Zentaraxian network, bypassing layers of encryption to access their communications hub. His circuits hummed with activity as he injected a virus into their system, causing chaos within their ranks. Inside the Zentaraxian command post, the officers panicked as their tactical displays flickered and went dark. Orders became garbled and contradictory, and Zentaraxian squads stumbled over each other in confusion. Retreat! Fall back! The Zentaraxian officers barked, their voices crackling over the comms. The Zentaraxian warships, now blind to the battlefield below, ceased their bombardment and began to retreat. Their shock troopers, once a disciplined force, broke into disarray and fled toward the extraction zones. The Vinorian soldiers rallied and launched a counterattack, driving the Zentaraxians back toward their ships. Emma led the charge, her energy rifle blazing as she pushed the enemy forces into a full rout. As the last Zentaraxian warship lifted off and disappeared into the nebula, the battlefield fell silent. The acrid smell of smoke lingered in the air as the Vinorian soldiers regrouped and began assessing the damage. Micron rolled up to Emma's side, his circuits buzzing with excitement. Zentaraxian retreat confirmed, Captain Sinclair. Victory achieved. Emma gave him a tired but proud smile. You did it, Micron. Your intel saved the day. Commander Zareth approached, his silver-skinned frame silhouetted against the dim twilight. Captain Sinclair, your strategic brilliance turned the tide of this battle, he said, bowing his head in gratitude. And Micron, reconnaissance unit, your infiltration of the Zentaraxian network was nothing short of heroic. The Vinorian soldiers, battered and bruised, looked at Micron with newfound respect. The once ridiculed warrior now stood as a hero. We're sorry for doubting you, little warrior, one of them said, offering a salute. You proved us wrong. Micron's optical sensor glowed warmly as he returned the salute. Apology accepted. But despite their victory, Emma knew this was only the beginning. The Zentaraxians had retreated, but they would return with greater force. As the Vinorian base hummed with the sounds of rebuilding and preparation, she and Micron began refining their strategies for the next assault. Together they would ensure that Vylora remained secure, no matter how many Zentaraxians came knocking. The Zentaraxian retreat was temporary. Within hours, they regrouped on the fringes of the Ashara Nebula and began their preparations for a full-scale assault. The Vinorian base hummed with urgency as soldiers rebuilt defensive fortifications and recalibrated their weapons. Inside the command tent, Captain Emma Sinclair studied the tactical displays, her brow furrowed in concentration. Micron stood beside her, processing the latest reconnaissance data from the surveillance drones circling the nebula. Captain Sinclair, Micron said, his optical sensor flickering as he projected a holographic map onto the table. The Zentaraxians have repositioned their fleet here, in the Vorthon sector, and established multiple forward command posts. Emma's gaze followed the red dots representing the Zentaraxian warships. It's like they're forming a net around us. They've increased their patrols and reinforced their outposts, Micron added. Infiltration will be difficult. Emma tapped her fingers on the table, contemplating their next move. Difficult, but not impossible. She turned to Micron, a determined glint in her eye. Micron, what do you know about Zentaraxian command protocols? Zentaraxian commanders rely on a central network to relay orders and coordinate their forces, Micron replied. Disrupting that network could paralyze their operations. A smile spread across Emma's lips. Exactly. If we can slip behind enemy lines and disable their command network, we can create enough confusion to force them to retreat. Commander Zareth, who had been silently listening, folded his arms across his metallic chest. A daring plan, Captain Sinclair. But can it be executed? Emma glanced at Micron. With Micron's reconnaissance abilities and my tactical know-how, I believe so. Zareth nodded solemnly. Then may fortune favor you both. That evening, under the cover of darkness, Emma and Micron set off for the Zentaraxian command post, nestled deep in the Vorthon sector. They traveled in a small stealth shuttle, skimming low over the rocky terrain to avoid detection. As they approached the Zentaraxian perimeter, the shuttle landed in a narrow gorge, hidden from the prying eyes of enemy patrols. Emma and Micron disembarked, their forms blending into the shadows as they crept toward the Zentaraxian forward base. Micron's optical sensor flickered, scanning the energy signatures of the Zentaraxian sentries patrolling the outer perimeter. 2 guards at the main entrance, Micron whispered, pointing to a pair of Zentaraxian troopers standing vigilantly beside a holographic energy gate. Their sleek, armored frames glowed with an ominous violet hue. Emma crouched behind a boulder, observing the guards through her tactical visor. We need a distraction. Micron's antenna extended, picking up an unsecured communications channel. There is a supply shuttle scheduled to land in 5 minutes. I can disrupt their landing protocols. Emma nodded. Do it. Micron transmitted a jamming signal that interfered with the shuttle's landing systems, causing it to veer off course and crash into the hillside just beyond the perimeter. The resulting explosion lit up the night sky, and the Zentaraxian guards rushed toward the flames. Go, Emma whispered, and she and Micron slipped past the empty gate into the Zentaraxian base. The Zentaraxian command post was a fortress of gleaming black metal, surrounded by energy barriers and automated turrets. Zentaraxian shock troopers patrolled the corridors, their ion rifles at the ready. Emma and Micron moved silently through the shadows, using Micron's small size and stealth technology to evade detection. They reached the central command hub, where a massive holo-display projected tactical maps of the Vinorian positions. 2 Zentaraxian officers stood before the display, analyzing the data with their glowing, insect-like eyes. Patch me into their network, Emma whispered, and Micron extended his data port, hacking into the Zentaraxian command systems. Within moments, he bypassed the encryption layers and accessed the communication hub. His circuits hummed as he injected a virus into their network, causing the tactical displays to flicker and distort. The Zentaraxian officers exchanged confused glances as the holo-display filled with static. Alarms blared throughout the base as the virus spread, garbling communications and sending conflicting orders to the Zentaraxian troops. Retreat to the secondary base, one of the officers barked over the intercom. Hold your ground, another shouted, his voice crackling with interference. The Zentaraxian warships, now blind to the battlefield below, began firing at random, their plasma bolts striking their own soldiers as often as the Vinorian lines. Time to go, Emma said, and she and Micron slipped away amidst the chaos. They returned to the stealth shuttle and flew back to the Vinorian base, where Commander Zareth awaited them at the command tent. Captain Sinclair, did you succeed? He asked, his silver eyes glinting with anticipation. Emma smiled. The Zentaraxian network is down. They're in complete disarray. Within hours, the Zentaraxian forces were in full retreat. Their warships withdrew from the nebula, leaving their forward bases abandoned and their soldiers scattered. The Vinorian Defense Legion, emboldened by the enemy's confusion, launched a sweeping counterattack that reclaimed the forward bases and secured the Vorthon sector. Back at the base, Emma and Micron stood before the Vinorian commanders, who commended them for their bravery and strategic brilliance. Captain Sinclair, Zareth said, bowing his head, your plan was flawless. He then turned to Micron. And Micron, reconnaissance unit, your infiltration was masterful. Vylora is safe because of you. The Vinorian soldiers who had once mocked Micron now looked at him with admiration and respect. "You really are a mighty warrior," one of them said, offering a salute. Micron's optical sensor glowed warmly. "Thank you." But Emma knew that the Zentaraxians would not give up easily. They would regroup and return with even greater force. The battle for Vylora was far from over, but with Micron by her side, Emma was confident they would be ready. Together, they would defend the moon against any threat that dared approach. In the aftermath of their victory at the Vorthon sector, the Venorian base buzzed with cautious optimism. Repairs were underway, and morale was higher than it had been in months. Micron's infiltration of the Zentaraxian network and Captain Emma Sinclair's strategic brilliance had turned the tide of the battle, forcing the enemy into a disorganized retreat. Emma stood outside the command tent, her tactical visor propped atop her auburn hair as she scanned the horizon. Her eyes lingered on the distant glimmer of the Ashara Nebula, where the Zentaraxian fleet had withdrawn to lick its wounds. Beside her, Micron's gears whirred softly as he assessed the latest surveillance data. "Captain Sinclair, Zentaraxian forces are regrouping on the outer rim of the nebula," he reported, projecting a holographic map in front of them. "Their fleet numbers have doubled." Emma's gaze hardened as she analyzed the new data. "They've brought reinforcements." "Affirmative," Micron replied. "Initial estimates suggest their current fleet strength is over 500 warships." Emma folded her arms, deep in thought. "They're preparing for an all-out assault." Commander Zareth approached, his silver-skinned frame casting a long shadow on the rocky terrain. "Captain Sinclair, the Zentaraxians will strike within hours. Are we ready?" Emma nodded confidently. "We've fortified our defenses and secured the eastern and western ridges. We need to hold our ground." Zareth turned to Micron, his glowing silver eyes reflecting the holographic map. "And what of the Zentaraxian command network?" Micron's optical sensor flickered as he processed the latest signals. "Still in disarray, Commander. The virus remains active." "Good," Zareth said, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Then we have the advantage." The Zentaraxians didn't keep them waiting. As the moons of Vylora rose over the horizon, the enemy fleet emerged from the nebula like a swarm of black locusts. Plasma bolts streaked through the night sky, and the ground trembled as the first explosions rocked the Vinorian base. Emma sprinted up to the command tower, her tactical visor glowing as she relayed orders to the defense lines. "Delta Squad, hold the western ridge. Echo Team, reinforce the eastern trenches." Micron buzzed beside her, relaying real-time updates from the surveillance drones. "Captain, Zentaraxian shock troopers are advancing on the northern perimeter." "Patch me through to Commander Zareth," Emma ordered. Micron's antenna extended, connecting her to Zareth's comms. "Commander, you've got shock troopers coming in from the north. We need more firepower there." "Understood, Captain. Redirecting Bravo Squad." Zareth's voice crackled over the intercom. The battle raged through the night, with plasma bolts and energy rifles lighting up the darkness like a storm of neon fireflies. Zentaraxian warships hovered overhead, their cannons unleashing torrents of plasma onto the Vinorian defense lines. But the Vinorian soldiers held firm, their ranks bolstered by Emma's strategies and Micron's precise reconnaissance data. The Zentaraxians' garbled communications left them vulnerable, and the Vinorian Defense Legion exploited every opening. As dawn broke over the horizon, the Zentaraxian assault began to falter. Their shock troopers, once relentless in their advance, stumbled back under the Vinorian counterattack. The warships, now unable to coordinate their fire, drifted aimlessly above the battlefield. Inside the Zentaraxian command ship, the officers scrambled to restore order, but the virus Micron had injected into their network continued to wreak havoc. "Pull back, fall back," a Zentaraxian commander barked, his insect-like eyes wide with panic. The Zentaraxian fleet turned tail and fled, disappearing into the nebula as quickly as they had emerged. Back at the Venorian base, cheers erupted across the defense lines as the last of the Zentaraxian warships vanished from sight. The soldiers embraced one another, and the air buzzed with jubilation. Commander Zareth stood atop the command tower, his silver-skinned frame gleaming in the early morning light. "Soldiers of the Vinorian Defense Legion," he called, his voice carrying over the cheering crowd. We have achieved victory today thanks to our allies." He beckoned to Emma and Micron, who climbed up to stand beside him. "Captain Emma Sinclair," Zareth said, turning to face her, "your strategic brilliance has saved Vylora. You have earned our eternal gratitude." He then turned to Micron, his glowing silver eyes reflecting the morning sun. "And Micron, reconnaissance unit, your infiltration of the Zentaraxian network was masterful. You are a true warrior." The Vinorian soldiers, battered and bruised, raised their energy blades in salute, chanting, "Micron the Mighty." Micron's optical sensor glowed warmly as he returned the salute. "Thank you, Commander, I am honored." One of the soldiers who had mocked Micron earlier stepped forward, offering a sheepish smile. "We're sorry for doubting you, little warrior. You've earned our respect." Micron's gears whirred with pride. "Apology accepted." Emma placed a hand on Micron's shoulder, a proud smile on her lips. "I knew you had it in you." But despite the celebration, Emma knew that the Zentaraxians would not give up so easily. The battle for Vylora was far from over. Back inside the command tent, Emma and Micron reviewed the latest tactical data, refining their strategies and fortifying the base for the next assault. "Think they'll come back soon?" Micron asked, his optical sensor flickering with concern. "They'll come back," Emma replied, "but we'll be ready." Together, they would defend Vylora against any threat that dared approach, and the Vinorian Defense Legion would no longer underestimate a warrior based on size alone. With the Zentaraxian forces routed and the Vinorian base secured, the battered soldiers of the Defense Legion took a collective breath. Victory had come at a cost, but their perseverance had paid off. Vylora was safe, at least for now. The Galactic Vanguard remained stationed in orbit, overseeing the reconstruction efforts. Emma Sinclair and Micron worked tirelessly, refining defense strategies and ensuring the Vinorians were prepared for any future attacks. Their partnership had not only proven effective, but had also become a symbol of unity and cooperation between the Vinorian Defense Legion and Earth's forces. One morning, Emma stood atop a rocky outcrop gazing out over the lunar plains. Micron rolled up beside her, his gears whirring softly. "Captain Sinclair," he said, "reconstruction is almost complete. The new defenses are operational and Commander Zareth is pleased with our progress." Emma smiled down at her little companion. "That's good to hear, Micron. And what about the Zentaraxians?" "Surveillance drones have confirmed that the Zentaraxian fleet has withdrawn to the outer rim of the Ashara Nebula," Micron reported. "They appear to be regrouping." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "They'll be back. We just need to be ready." A silence settled over them as the twin moons of Vylora cast long shadows across the plains. "Captain," Micron said hesitantly, "I have been reviewing my performance in the recent engagements." Emma turned to him, curiosity flickering in her green eyes. "And?" Micron's gears clicked as he searched for the right words. "While my reconnaissance abilities were crucial to our success, I have determined that my combat effectiveness could be significantly improved." Emma crouched down to meet his gaze. "Micron, you did an incredible job. You're a hero to the Vinorians." "But I can do better," Micron insisted. "I have analyzed the data from my engagements and identified areas for enhancement. With the right upgrades, I can be more than just a reconnaissance unit." Emma listened carefully, considering his words. "What kind of upgrades?" "Enhanced servos for greater mobility, reinforced plating for durability, and improved targeting systems for accuracy," Micron listed. "If I am to continue assisting you, I must be able to hold my ground in battle." Emma smiled warmly. "I think we can arrange that." Back at the Vinorian base, Emma and Micron presented their plan to Commander Zareth. "Commander, I believe Micron deserves a full upgrade," Emma said, her tone resolute. "He's proven himself time and time again. Let's give him the tools he needs to be even more effective." Zareth listened intently, his silver eyes reflecting the morning light. Micron has indeed proven himself a worthy warrior. The Vinorian Defense Legion will provide all the resources necessary for his enhancement. In the following days, Vinorian engineers worked tirelessly to upgrade Micron's systems. They fitted him with enhanced servos, reinforced his plating with a durable alloy, and integrated state-of-the-art targeting systems. His new frame gleamed in the sunlight, and his circuits hummed with energy. Emma stood before him, pride radiating from her smile. Looking sharp, Micron. Micron's optical sensor glowed brightly. Thank you, Captain Sinclair. I am ready to serve. Shortly afterward, preparations began for Emma's departure back to Earth. The Galactic Vanguard was scheduled to return to the Sol system, and she had been ordered to report to the Earth Alliance headquarters. Commander Zareth and the Vinorian Defense Legion gathered at the landing bay to bid her farewell. Captain Sinclair, Zareth said, your leadership has been invaluable to our defense efforts. We wish you safe travels back to your homeworld. Emma saluted, and the Vinorian soldiers returned the gesture with their glowing energy blades. And Micron, Zareth added, turning to the upgraded robot, your bravery has inspired us all. The Vinorian Defense Legion will always consider you one of our own. Micron's gears clicked softly as he returned the salute. Thank you, Commander Zareth. It has been an honor to serve with you. As Emma approached the shuttle, Micron rolled up beside her, his servos whirring smoothly. Captain Sinclair, may I accompany you to Earth? He asked, his optical sensor flickering with hope. Emma knelt down to meet his gaze. What do you say, partner? Ready for a new adventure? Micron's circuits buzzed with excitement. Affirmative, Captain Sinclair. The shuttle ascended into the blue haze of Vylora's atmosphere, docking with the Galactic Vanguard orbiting above. From the observation deck, Emma and Micron watched the moon recede into the distance. So what's Earth like? Micron asked, his optical sensor glowing with curiosity. Very different from Vylora, Emma replied with a smile. But I think you'll like it. The Galactic Vanguard set course for Earth, and together, Emma and Micron embarked on a new journey, ready to defend the galaxy side by side. And so, the tiny warrior who had once been ridiculed became a legend, proving that even the smallest heroes can make the biggest difference when given the chance.